Let me find out that Pastor Charles is actually Pastor Peen because when it comes to him, something is definitely up indeed. Okay, welcome or welcome back to my channel Reviewed, where we talk about all things television and film from today and yesteryear. So today I wanted to come on here and do a brief recap of The Shy season 7 episode 5. Let's get to it. So before the episode even kicked off, we got this brief recap of things that has happened previously on The Shy. And they showed this particular moment when Reggie and this police officer were basically having a back and forth where she was confronting him about things that Reggie had been doing, around the neighborhood or whatnot when he was at this time working for Duda. So we got to see her a little bit in this particular episode. So the episode starts off with Jake and Reggie going around robbing ATMs. Like, how soon do you forget, Jake, how far you have come? Like, all the progress that you have made since Reggie has been out of the picture, and now all of a sudden, here you are running amok with him once again. I do not like Reggie. I don't see it for him. Reggie is a bully, and he is not a positive role model for Jake. I do not like him at all. So here we have the detective that we got in the flashback with Reggie. And basically, she gets a phone call from her son. Her son is currently locked up, and he lets his mom know that Reggie is alive. And she's like, "What do you mean he's alive?" Because everybody is under the assumption that, Reggie is on a permanent vacation with the Lord. Nonetheless, her son lets her know, "Hey, this is what's going on." And so now she is basically letting him know she's going to get to the bottom of it to figure out what exactly is going on and if Reggie is really out in these streets. And ma'am, he is. Okay. So this episode, we did not get a lot from Nuck, but this particular moment, Nuck and the crew, they're basically getting all their substances together or whatever to distribute out in the streets. So this young man, he pulls up in his car and he steps out. He got his jewelry on, all flashy and whatnot. And Nuck is basically letting him know, "Dude, I told you this ain't how we gonna be stepping out. Like, we don't need to keep having eyes on us. Like, this ain't how we gonna be running this thing. I'm in charge now. This is what I say you need to do, and you're gonna do it." And so the dude was like, "All right, my bad, I'll stop wearing all my jewelry." And so Nuck ends up unaliving the young man. And I'm like, okay, I understand that the position that Nuck is in, he wants people to understand that he is the head Negro in charge and do as I say, not as I do. Like, he got to let folks know that they should fear him. And honey, when he blew that boy brains out, when I tell you the look on Bakari's face was like, dude, like, I got to get up out of this. But nonetheless, I am at the it's like I'm at the point now with Nuck. It's just like, what are you really trying to do? Because one moment we see you trying to redeem yourself. We see that you're trying to be a good father. You don't want your son to follow in your footsteps. You are trying to turn over a new leaf. But then when it comes to, I can't even say that this young man was testing your manhood, because he was just like, it is what it is, cool. Like, he was basically trying to get you off his back. And then you sit up there and you send him to go be with the Grim Reaper. It's like, what are you exactly trying to do here, Nug? Because it don't seem like you really, really trying to get out of that life or trying to change yours at the same time. Okay. So we get this really cute moment with Tiff and Keisha, honey, and the Bellies at the pool. They're lounging, talking, chatting it up. And, Tiff mentions to Keisha, she was like, "Yeah, Victor has been helping me out a lot lately." And Tiff kind of smiles when she's talking about him. And Keisha's like, "Oh, what's the smile for?" Like, "Girl, what's the tea? Like, what's going on?" And so Tiff's like, "What?" And she's like, "What's going on with you and Victor?" And she's like, "Nothing." She's like, "Besides, I think he probably prefers to date trans women." And Keisha was like, "Well, did you ask him?" And Tiff was like, "No," because Keisha was like, "Girl, don't assume, just figure it out." And she was like, "It's just weird." And then she mentions Nuck. Tiff ends up mentioning Nuck. And so Keisha was like, "Yeah, what's going on with that too? Because that's kind of, I see, he been hanging around a lot, looking after you too." And Tiff was like, "I don't know, it's just a lot of energy." And Keisha was like, "What kind of energy? Like, you want to get it in type of energy?" And Tiff was like, "No, just kind of negative. Like, she just got a bad vibe." And I'm like, again, Tiff at this point is the only one with discernment. And it's like, girl, because this is the fool that just sent Rob to be on a permanent vacation with the Lord. So that's why you have such a bad vibe when it comes to him, because he is really not a sincere dude. Not at all. And of course, Tiff is like, girl, I ain't got time to be dealing with nobody. I got enough going on right now. I'm not trying to really get involved with anybody. And while her and Keisha are having this conversation, Alicia just so happens to be ear hustling, honey. And as she walks by, just kind of listening to their conversation. And I'm like, I wonder what her thoughts are and if she's going to mention this conversation to Tiff at some point. So here we have Jake and Reggie buying some jewelry, getting a little bling bling from all the money that they just snatched about the ATMs. And I tell you, this just really irks me because Jake, he is just so much better off when he does not have Reggie's negativity influencing his life. So Shad and Alicia are chilling on her yacht, right? And Shad is basically like cleaning up. He's sweeping, mopping, or whatever, the yacht. And Alicia's like, I got somebody to do that. Why are you, cleaning up? And he was like, no, I don't mind, or whatever. So basically, they are getting ready to have a yacht party. Well, Alicia is getting ready to have a yacht party, honey. And so, her and Rashad are having just some small talk about it, and he basically lets her know that he don't want to be at no yacht party with her and her bougie friends. And she was like, what do you mean? And he was like, I'm just not in the mood. I don't want to be around all them people. Like, basically letting her know, I don't feel like being fake today. But for me, I think it still has something to do with the fact that Shad told Alicia that he loved her, and we did not see those sentiments reciprocated. Okay. So that's what I think it has to do with. Also, it has to do with the fact that Shaw was like, besides, Tiff want me and Vic to try out some shrooms for her because, Tiff is, branching out to start selling those psychedelic substances or whatever. And so Alicia's like, what you mean you gonna be hanging out with Victor to try some shrooms with Tiff? Like, miss me with it, okay?
You're gonna miss a beautiful day on the water to do drugs with your friends? Uh, yeah.
So Reg and Jake end up pulling up to the docks because everybody is seemingly having some type of yacht party, boat party, or whatever. Like, this is the weekend to bring out the boats, honey, and everybody is pulling up, okay, in the water. But anyway, so Jake is sitting here with Reggie, and Reggie is basically scoping out the scene because he is trying to figure out how he's going to get Nuck up out the picture. And of course, he wants Jake to be there with him to help him figure out who these people are, who is this and who is that. He's asking Jake information about certain people, and Jake, of course, is filling him in and letting him know. So, honey, why everybody is on their big old yachts? Here you go with Emmett and his dad and his brother. Emmett's dad rents this, like, I don't know what it is, but it don't leave the water, okay? And I'm like, the fact that he's sitting there chilling with his little two meat grill, honey, because you can literally only put two pieces of meat on the grill he was grilling on. Then he got the little boombox radio. I was cracking up because I'm like, he ain't got no shame. And when I tell you, Emmett and his brother was like, we on the water, but we ain't gonna go out in the water. He was like, nah, dad ain't want to pay for the fuel, but he is straight up there chilling. Everybody is out there, and he's just sitting in this little bitty platoon or whatever you want to call it, honey. And they they trying to have a good old time. Okay. So Bakari shows up to Alicia's all white yacht party. Okay. And we also have Professor Garner and his wife there as well. And Bakari, he's just like looking around like, oh, wow, I ain't never been to nothing like this. And it seems like Alicia is taking a liking to him, but in more of a mother son type thing, not what Shad assumes that she actually likes him like that. But she kind of has taken Bakari under her wing, and I'm telling y'all, I don't know how this is going to turn out because we already know once everything comes out about Rob, she is not going to have mercy on nobody. So, honey, the pulpit pimp is also having a yacht party. He got his boat out there. He's up here talking to Nuck, and this guy ends up coming up, and Pastor Zeke, he ends up introducing him to Nuck, and they have an exchange of words that were not necessarily pleasant. And, this pastor, this pulpit pimp, honey, he has his hands in a lot of goings on in the shy. And I don't know what he expects is going to happen or what he's going to get from that, because we already know that the pastor he had business with Duda. And so it just looks like at this moment Nuck is going to be the seat filler in reference to that. But they are having a party right along with everybody else. Okay. So Lene's brother, Jamal, he lets her know that him and Don are gonna get married, and Lene is not here for it because she is just like, "Girl, we don't hardly know you. Like, yeah, you can cook, but this is moving a little bit too fast." And Lene, she feels the way. She was like, "I feel like y'all making all these decisions, and y'all forgetting about me. Like, I live here too. Like, y'all are making all these major decisions, and y'all not filling me in on it." And so her and old girl have an exchange of words. She's like, "Honey, where is your family? Like, who are you? We really do not even know who you are."
Where's yours?
My family is fucked up.
And so is mine.
Is that why you're a pass around?
You know what?
So, honey, Don has to let Lene know, pause. Like, girl, I ain't doing nothing different that these men have not been doing for years. Just because I have a history of expressing myself with men does not make me a pass around. She was like, girl, so miss me with it. And she was like, clearly your brother does not have a problem with my body count, so neither should you. Like, don't play with me. And Lene was like, you know what? I'm sorry. You're right. I shouldn't have placed that name on you because of your past, especially when men do it all the time. It is what it is. And Don was like, girl, look, I love your brother. And the fact that I love your brother, that's just going to make me want to look out for you. Like if at any point, basically, she lets Lene know, like, decision making and things like that are going to affect all of us. We will make sure that we are, basically giving you a heads up. So the two of them pretty much come to an amends. So we get to Tiff where she's, talking to Victor and Shad. They are trying to figure out which mushrooms to try, because it's like, it's going to be nasty. They got these look on their face like, oh, this is going to be nasty. It's just like, look, you can, blend them in a smoothie. She's like, I got the mango right here, so when y'all eat it, if y'all decide to eat it raw, you can just chase it with a mango to knock out the taste or whatever. And so they are trying to figure out, well, what's going to happen? Like, what's going to be the reaction after we take this? She said, I don't know. That's the purpose of y'all trying them out. We're trying to figure out what it's going to do, how it's going to, I guess, make them trip. I guess that's what they call it, a trip. And so she was like, I just need y'all to make sure y'all let me know everything that y'all feel and your experience once you're on these shrooms. And Victor was like, okay, so what you mean? What we gonna be doing? I ain't gonna be running down the street naked or nothing like that, geeked out. Like, I'm not gonna be doing no craziness like that. And Tiff was like, no, you shouldn't. But, she's just letting them know, hey, all I need y'all to do is let me know what your experience is, point blank, period.
Kind of shit.
Emotional shit.
Oh, see, I ain't trying to be all emotional today, man.
Your mind will levitate.
Well, like that.
Just tell me everything that happens once it's over.
So back at the dock, Emmett, he's having another conversation with his dad about marriage. And his dad is like, marriage is going to protect your wife and your kids. And he was like, man, ain't got nothing to worry about. He was like, ain't nothing been going on in these streets. Me and Nuck cool. And the dad was like, but are y'all going to be cool forever? Like, you just never know. You need to be prepared. You should have a will and all these things like that. And Emmett basically, he is just like, I ain't trying to hear that. Like, let me just enjoy this day. I ain't trying to have this conversation. Okay. So, honey, here we are at Jamal and Don's nuptials. And when I tell you, when Dante came out, I cracked up. Listen, this is who I want Tiff with. I want Tiff with Dante. I don't know why. I just want Tiff and Dante together. If y'all got to put Tiff with somebody, let it be Dante, because Dante is hilarious. Nonetheless, honey, he is an ordained minister from www.ministry.com. Okay, so he is officiating the wedding.
Okay, now, if there's anyone in here that doesn't think these two should be joined in holy matrimony, don't say shit. Because they don't give a damn about what you think, because this is their life, okay?
So Lene and Papa were the witnesses of Dawn and Jamal's wedding. And, they read their vows to each other, and now they are officially married. Okay. So, honey, Bakari ends up meeting up with this publisher who just so happens to be a friend of Alicia's, right? And this woman, she seems to be interested in his story. Now, Bakari is not feeling it. He has great discernment because he understands that you being able to make a book off of my life and my story, the things that I've been through, that's not going to fly with me. And she is basically, she's trying to get him to pitch himself to her, and he does. He goes into how he was in foster care, him and his sister, and how they was in the streets and basically, just had to pull themselves up by the bootstraps, as people like to say. Okay, whatever. But anyway, So he's listening to her mouthpiece and he is not here for it. And he politely lets Alicia know that too. Okay.
Congratulations.
I can't work with that white bitch.
What?
So Alicia's like, what are you talking about? You should be glad that someone interested in your story. He's like, honey, I'm not trying to be here for no unseasoned woman selling my story to nobody. Like, if anybody is going to make a dime or anything off of me, it's going to be me. He is one of those people, he's been in the streets for so long, but he's not about to let nobody play in his face. And that's what I like about Bakari, because Bakari, he is a street dude, but he is a very smart guy when it comes to books and just life in general. He seemingly kind of knows not to let people mess around with him. So Vic and Shad, honey, they are shroomed up, okay? And they are definitely going on a trip. So Vic, he is having a hallucination of his old self. I think this is when he called himself Trig. So he's looking in the mirror and he sees his former self, and his former self starts to reach out to him and starts to choke him. Sidebar, when I saw this moment, this reminded me of when Luke James played in that show on Prime, Them the Scare. Honey, if y'all ain't see it, please go see it. It is definitely worth the watch. Anyway, nonetheless, Vic starts to have this hallucination of his former self, and he basically is trying to fight him off, as if he's trying to fight off his old demon, because he is no longer this person, Trig. So Shad, his hallucination is of him as a kid, and he's sitting around the table with his mom. And this was a really, really good moment. I really like how the camera panned around, and you got to see the young boy turn into the adult Shad, and he's sitting there with his hat and gloves on, and his mom is basically, she's really not paying attention to him. It's almost as if she's there with him, but she's not there. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, like she ain't paying attention to him. But nonetheless, this is what his hallucination is about, his childhood, and I guess the things that he dealt with as a kid between him and his mom. So, honey, back on the boat, Professor Garner and his wife, they're talking to Bakari. They're asking him how everything went with the woman that he was speaking with. He was like, I'm not fooling with that unseasoned woman. He was like, look, I'm not about to let nobody come up off of me. Like, that's just not going to happen. And he was like, I'm not going to let anyone publish my life story, and it's going to be more beneficial to them than it will be to me. And Professor Gardner was like, well, what do you mean? What are you saying? He said, I don't really care for her either. He said, what you're saying makes sense. And Bakar was like, I'll look into publishing my own stuff. Like, if it's going to be about me, I'm going to be the one that's going to benefit from it the most. And Professor Gardner was like, that could be very expensive, but I'll look into that for you. And this, again, is what I like about Bakari. And I think maybe the fact that he has been in the streets for so long, you got to think quick on your feet. But I think it kind of has prepared him for the young man that he is becoming. Like, I'm just not going to let anybody take advantage of me. So I guess the street life, in a sense, has kind of helped him, in reference to being able to spot when someone could potentially, you know, profit off of you more than you will yourself, if that makes sense. So, honey, over at the praise and worship boat, Pastor Charles, he is making his rounds, smiling and grinning in the women's face. Honey, Chester Cat grin is on full display, okay? And Jada, she peep game. She does not see it for Pastor Ping, okay? She knows that Tracy has a thing for Pastor Charles. So, she sit back watching. She's having a conversation with one of the churchgoers, that goes to their church. And so she's over here and she's looking at him. She's like, honey, Pastor Charles is a little bit too friendly for me. So, honey, this lady was basically letting Jada know that Pastor Charles is good at getting women on their knees. And so Jada was like, for prayer? And the girl was like, yes, for prayer. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right, child, go on. So, of course, Jada lets Tracy know, honey, you need to watch him because clearly he is passing out more than prayers. Like, girl, you need to be careful. And Tracy's like, oh, he's just a nice guy. He really cares about, the congregation and things like that. And girl, Jada like, child, please, honey, because he may care about the congregation, but he clearly has no problem passing out the collection plate, if you know what I mean. Okay. So Tracy, she does end up asking Pastor Charles, she's like, how many women on this boat have you been with? And he was like, well, how many women are on the boat? He make a little joke, and she's like, okay, whatever. But he basically tells her, don't get caught up in all the church gossip. Like, you cannot believe everything that you hear. And I'm like, no, she can't believe everything that she hear, but baby, the eyes are going to tell her what she need to see. Okay. So Shad and Vic, they are somewhat coming down from the psychedelic trip that they had from the shrooms, and they are ultimately just discussing with each other what their experience was.
I ain't get enough love as a kid.
Neither did I.
I think that's why I probably spent my life, like, chasing women and doing dumb shit, because I ain't never get the love that I wanted.
My whole life running away from love. So I don't think I deserve it.
So again, I always say how much I love how they have no problem with showing vulnerability of men on this show. Like, this is one of the things that I really appreciate about The Chi, and the characters, is that we get to see these men be vulnerable and just basically express their feelings. So even though they were on shrooms and they were having a psychedelic trip, I did appreciate the fact that they, once they were coming down, they were able to have an open discussion with one another about their experiences. And we got to see them be emotional and cry. And at some point, Shaw was like, "Are you gonna tell Tiff everything that you saw?" And Vic was like, "I don't know. What about you?" Because they, like, even though they can have these vulnerable moments with each other as men, they still got to put on a face for a woman. Like, I ain't trying to let this girl know I was crying and I was in my feelings about how my mom didn't love me and appreciate me as a child. And, Vic, with him saying that he feels like he avoids love because he feels like he does not deserve it. I really, really like this moment that the two of them had. But honey, when I tell you it did not benefit Shad at all because he overslept, and of course he ends up forgetting to pick Alicia up. So Alicia, she calls him and he picks up the phone and he's like, "Oh man, I forgot, like, because he's still messed up. The mushrooms got him messed up." He's like, I'm on my way. And she's like, "Just forget it." And of course, Pastor, the pulpit pimp, honey, he ends up walking up to Alicia, basically letting her know that he can take her home or whatnot. Also, we got to see Reggie and Jake. They were still there posted up, and he ends up spotting Alicia. Reg does. And Jake was like, "Yeah, that's Alicia. That's the woman who got Vic off." And Reg asked her, he was like, "Oh, she got money?" He was like, "Yeah, she got a lot of money." That's what Jake ends up telling Reg. So I'm like, "Okay, what are you trying to do now?" So I'm wondering how he's gonna infiltrate his way into Alicia's life. I would not be surprised if Alicia start messing around with Reg, but I don't know. I could be thinking too far ahead, but you never know. Okay. So Alicia and the pulpit pimp, they're having a conversation, and he asked her, he was like, "When was the last time you've been to church?" And Alicia basically was like, "I don't know. I can't tell you the last time I went to church." And she brings a question up like, "Is there a God?" And he says something to the effect of, "Oh, so I have a non-believer in front of me." And, Alicia, she goes into how certain things, how can a God allow certain things to happen? I think that's what she was in reference to. And the pastor, he's listening to her, and he just says, he was like, oftentimes it's like you believe in something so much, and then one thing can just happen that will basically make you stray away from your faith and belief.
Nothing crushes faith quicker than disappointment.
I really liked what the pastor said in that moment because it was very profound. And, Alicia, she follows up and she was like, can faith be restored? And he basically says, God can do anything, which, we know to be true. But so he, is asking Alicia, "Well, what do you want? What do you expect?" And Alicia was like, "I want you to get rid of all the people who are around here laying folks out. Like, I want you to find the person who are piling up all these bodies." She was like, they keep sending people to be with the Grim Reaper, and I'm basically tired of it. It's just like I want to get rid of all those people. And he was like, well, how's it going to benefit me? It's just like it's going to benefit you financially, and I can have fundraisers. I can raise, get you millions of dollars. And the pulpit pimp was like, honey, I already have rich friends, and Alicia said my friends are richer. So what you got? And the look on his face when she said that, my friends have more money. Like, don't play with me. So he does go on to tell her also that, a lot of the youth and a lot of the young men, basically the ones in the streets, are starting to trust him. And she's like, it is what it is. I don't care about that. But, we need to get rid of these people. We need to get them up out of our community. And we already know that this is coming from not necessarily even a vengeful place at the moment for Alicia, because she thinks that she got rid of the person that unalived Rob. Okay. But, she is a grieving mother, and she's tired of women going through what she is currently going through, and she is just at the point where she's like, by any means necessary, no matter what the cost or disruption, basically. So that is her reason for wanting to link up with the pastor. And I'm curious to see how this is going to turn out. So at the end of the episode, we get this moment where the detective, she's having a conversation with the captain, with her boss, and she basically lets him know, hey, who does this look like to you? And he looks at the picture, and she's like, that's Reggie. And he was like, Reggie, so-and-so. And he was like, nah, he's not alive. And she was like, yes, he is. A reliable source from the inside told me that he is back and he's in the streets. He was just in hiding. Nothing really ever happened to him. And I'm like, okay, so now, not only are you running around here robbing ATMs, but now the popo is about to be on your tail. Like, I don't understand where Jake's senses went. It's like he lost all his senses once Reggie stepped over that door's threshold. Okay. Like, it behooves me that he just let all his common sense go out the door once Reggie. I don't like Reggie. I don't see it for him. He has always been a bully to Jake. Jake has always done what he wanted him to do. And it's like, how you just let all that just go away once he come back in. And now he got you tied up in this ATM bus mess. Like, you running around here robbing all these ATMs. They got his face on camera and they got yours on camera. Yeah, all they can see are your eyes, but they're going to figure out eventually that it was you. And I'm wondering how this is going to affect Vic, because, Vic done all he could to try to be a positive role model for Jake. And now you got Jake tied up to Reggie. Like, I don't like it at all. And I'm also wondering, okay, if Reggie is going to be the one to get rid of Nuck, if Alicia, Tiff, Emmett, and Keisha and them, are they going to really find out that Nuck is the one that unalived Rob? Like, how is all of this going to play out? It's like stuff just keep changing. So, of course, the way I think has to change, because I'm like, okay, so this could be the scenario, or this could be the scenario. Either way, I cannot wait for everything to unfold, because when I tell you, it's going to affect everybody. It is going to affect everybody. And poor Bakari, because he is just caught in the middle, and I can't even say it's his fault, because again, he is where he is and he's trying to get out of it. And I hope he does make it out, because last season I really thought he was going to go on permanent vacation with Jesus. Okay. But fortunately he did not. And I'm hoping that is not the case, but we shall see. We shall see. Well, that's all I have for you guys in this video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.